The wonders of Africa. The allure of Asia. This is where millions travel to track exotic wildlife. From tigers and gorillas to dinosaurs. Fantasy. Endangered or extinct. If it has to do with animals, they'll be here at Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park. So buckle up, because we're about to take you to a world of fat, stinky bugs, Himalayan hideouts, whitewater rafting, and Serengeti safaris. See how Disney grew a seed of an idea into a major theme park and uncover the secrets behind the rides, the shows, and animal environments at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park. It's an extraordinary sight. Encompassing 500 acres of Central Florida, it's by far Walt Disney World's largest theme park. The plains of Africa, the jungles of Asia, primeval forests, all in one little corner of the world.
You really aren't in Florida anymore. You're in Asia. You're in Africa. You are not in the United States.
You're in the Himalayas. You're in India. You're traveling a world that you would never honestly get to see.
Disney's Animal Kingdom recreates some of our planet's most exotic locations with exacting detail. Everything you see at Disney's Animal Kingdom was either created or imported. The hundreds of thousands of plants, the tropical vegetation, the authentic architecture. Disney even built the rivers from scratch.
They call it a new species of thrill park. So it was a new challenge, and they're still trying to identify to a lot of people what it's all about. You know, it's not a zoo. It's a species of theme park that happens to deal with animals.
It's a celebration of animals, whether those animals are live or whether they're imaginary or fantastic.
Disney's Imagineers had never built a theme park that featured so many live animals.
There's been a long progression with the Walt Disney Company of an association with live animals and with animals as a general theme, starting with the animated films and progressing to the true life adventures and progressing to the Jungle Cruise. We were waiting for the technological means to be able to achieve this vision.
I think that probably the greatest challenge in creating Disney's Animal Kingdom is that for the first time we were creating a show that was alive.
They'd had animal attractions, they'd had dark rides, they'd had safari type of attractions, but they never really put it all together before. And so what they were faced with is animals that eat 24 hours a day, they roam 24 hours a day. So it wasn't something that they could leave the back gate and flip off the light and then come in the next morning and turn the roller coaster on.
Asia, Africa, Discovery Island, Rafiki's Planet Watch, The Oasis, Dinoland USA, and Camp Mini Mickey. These are the lands that make up Disney's Animal Kingdom. Disney wants park-goers to feel as if they've traveled into the wild corners of the world. So one of the most elaborately themed lands at Animal Kingdom delivers visitors straight to the soul of the African continent. Here they encounter bustling marketplaces, exotic smells, and shifty elephant poachers. Welcome to Disney's version of Africa. The entrance to Africa is Harambe Village. With painstaking attention to detail, the area faithfully recreates an African town.
When you go to our African village, there's mildew on the buildings and telephone wires and advertisements stuck on the wall. It has a very distinct sense of a history, of an economic status, of a political world in which it exists. It feels like a real place.
Just how authentic is Harambe?
When we first opened the park, we had people coming from Africa to work in the village of Harambe, and I remember one young lady telling me she was very worried that she would be very homesick. And when she got to the village and she saw it, she realized it looked just like where she grew up.
Disney employed 13 Zulu thatchers from South Africa just to thatch Harambe's roofs. Harambe Village is where you'll find one of Animal Kingdom's star attractions. It's one of the biggest and most ambitious rides ever created by Disney's Imagineers. What's it all about? Well, the roads are bad. The animals are wild. And the mission is to foil some scheming poachers. Kilimanjaro Safari. It might just be the next best thing to a real African safari.
The architects and designers went to great lengths to try and replicate the African habitat here on the savannas.
Flooded roads, collapsing bridges, and more than 250 different animal species. At 110 acres, this single attraction is bigger than the entire Magic Kingdom and the largest Disney has ever created.
You're going on a tour, a safari. We wanted to go through numerous different environments because that's the type of animals we wanted to have out there to get a real broad feeling that you have been to East Africa. So you start out in a river area with forests, and that's where we have our forest animals. You then descend into a river, which you see numerous rivers in Africa. And, you know, sometimes there's a bridge, and sometimes you just drive through the water, and that's what's fun about traveling through Africa. So we did that exact thing. We drive through a river that actually has hippos in it.
The safari adventure goes through forests, rivers, and over a rickety-looking bridge that crosses a river teeming with toothy crocodiles, and then arrives at one of the highlights of Disney Safari, the African savanna.
And we actually elevated the ground by 30 feet to get to a point where you could have a distant vista of the savanna, which is, you know, 50 acres in itself.
Disney wanted the savanna to be as authentic as possible, so the Imagineers looked to Mother Nature for inspiration.
The other thing that we really tried to do in this park is actually have the animals mixed together. We want them to appear to be herds of animals intermingling with each other, just as they do in nature.
And it looks like they've already got some of our ivory, but not...
My favorite animal was the zebra.
Bringing the plains of Africa to Central Florida was no easy feat.
We knew that the Kilimanjaro Safari's ride, being 100 acres in itself, was going to take up a large chunk of that property.
Making a safari where all the animals appear to live together posed a unique challenge. Many of these animals are hungry predators.
The exhibit is situated so that the guests can't see the moat separating them from the lion. There's an 18-foot deep, 21-foot wide moat that maintains the lion separate from the rest of the animals here on the savannas.
There's also camouflaged fences, impassable bridges, and cattle guards. The Imagineers don't want visitors to see these secret barriers, but they do want them to see the animals.
The elevation off the ride path when you're in the safari truck was very carefully determined and used so that we could figure out what you would be seeing and what you were not supposed to be seeing.
The safari truck drives right through this river full of hot-blooded hippos, but they can't come near the vehicle.
In the hippopotamus exhibit, we have concrete wings that jut out into the pool that keep the hippo back away from the edge and don't give them any footing so they can actually climb out.
With so much space to roam freely, how is the wildlife kept in view? Disney uses something called browse, a green leafy material on branches, which they place near the path to encourage the animals to stay near the ride vehicles. When on the safari, visitors won't notice these secret feeders. That's because they're camouflaged.
The stump feeders that you say look as though a tree had just broken off, but in reality it's concrete and has a space on the top of it where we can place browse throughout the day.
Browse serves another key purpose. It keeps this hungry horde from stripping the savanna clean. It also helps the gardeners who already work 24 hours a day potting, planting, and pruning this vast area.
Our gardeners start early in the morning, and there are guys out on the savanna crew of 3 or 4 guys that are replanting constantly just to keep up with the animals.
While the gardeners are hard at work, the animals are fast asleep, but not on the savannah. The animals would get in the way of the gardeners, so Disney trained them to go back to their night houses. Just how did they do that?
All the animals out on the African safari are trained to different audio cues, and that means a cue like the beat of a drum or a bell or a triangle or a whistle. And each species learns their cue while they're in that acclimation process, and they learn to respond to whatever that whistle or bell is. At night it's beautiful. There's just all these sounds going on, and they all march back to their individual night houses when they hear their cue.
These night houses are state-of-the-art, and Disney spared no expense.
All of our backstage houses that we have for the animals were designed by the experts from all over the country. So it really represents the next generation in great thinking in terms of housing for animals.
But animals are just part of the Kilimanjaro safari experience. The ride vehicles have to be as authentic as the environment. Bumped, bonked, and battered. These trucks may look like they're from the African wilds, but they're not.
For the ride vehicles in Africa, the safari trucks, we actually bought a very standard truck, a flatbed truck from Detroit, and then had another shop up there customize it to what we wanted it to look like.
Yeah, like something that's been through a monsoon. This mud is actually sprayed and painted cement. Despite their battered looks, these trucks are in fact state-of-the-art. But because Kilimanjaro Safari is no ordinary attraction, Disney needs extraordinary vehicles that are both animal and environmentally friendly.
These vehicles are out there 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, constantly running through an animal environment as well as a guest environment.
These trucks were outfitted with special mirrors, a speed control system, and something Disney calls bird guards, which keep the smaller safari animals out of harm's way. To reduce pollution, each of the safari vehicles runs on liquid propane, while specialized software keeps track of all 41 vehicles during the 2-mile trek, using something called modem puck technology. Each time it passes over a puck buried in the road, an antenna in the truck sends the information back to a server. This way, Disney makes sure there are no traffic jams on the savannah, because you never know what you'll bump into out there.
Hey, how are you there? You're munching all the time, I see.
Just like a real safari, anything can happen on this ride, but it does have some advantages over the real deal.
In an African safari, you'd go out and spend hours and sometimes even days looking for animals. Here, you know you're going to find the animals, and it's always different.
Disney's Animal Kingdom, a wildlife wonderland complete with African safaris. But Africa is not the only place to find wild animals and jungles. There's a little place known as Asia. Forbidden temples, tropical rainforests, and Anandapur, a town created by Disney's Imagineers that transports visitors to the jungles of the Far East.
From the moment you enter Asia, you're in the jungle. The little town is in the jungle. The animals are in the jungle. There's ruins of other structures in the jungle with the animals. And it's very unclear where the boundary between the human world and the animal world begins and ends.
Rising nearly 200 feet is one of the park's main attractions, Expedition Everest, a high-speed coaster through the Himalayan unknown with a twist.
What is especially cool about it, though, is that it not only is this incredible thrill ride, but it's also a full, authentic experience.
The experience begins here in the richly detailed village of Zirkazan, where you'll make final preparations before embarking to the Everest base camp.
So when you walk into this area, you feel as if you're walking into the foothills of the Himalayas.
Through ancient ruins and artifacts, visitors will learn of the mountain's legendary inhabitant, the abominable snowman. and the fate of those souls who have attempted this journey before them.
The villagers believe that the Yeti is the protector of the Forbidden Mountain Pass, and as a guest, as a trekker, we must travel through the mountains into the realm of the Yeti.
Those brave enough to continue board a refurbished mountain train to begin their ascent to the base camp of Mount Everest.
They're looking for a shortcut over to Mount Everest through the Himalayas, but unfortunately they're passing through some sacred territory of the Yeti.
There are signs of his presence. And then the train is stopped in its tracks.
There's no place to go. Our route to the base camp has been destroyed by the Yeti, and we've got to get off the mountain fast. And that's where the ride really switches from a very scenic ride to a very fun, very thrilling ride.
Plunging through caverns looking for a way out. Passengers find the beast instead. Walt Disney Imagineers canvassed the globe to unearth the myth of the Yeti, weaving the cultural fabric of the Himalayan people into the Expedition Everest experience.
We brought that realism to our village, and we display it in some of the props, the totems, the carvings that the guests will see as they progress through the queue.
And we got fascinated by this idea of creating a thrill adventure where the guests sort of go where they're not supposed to go.
What appears to be an authentic mountain setting from the outside is actually a technological superstructure on the inside.
The process of designing the ride was really quite detailed. There's over a mile of ride in this attraction, so in order to incorporate all of that terrain following element with the facility that we had to build around it was really very complex and required a lot of engineering.
I'm always blown away by the incredible detail that the Imagineers put into their attractions. And at Expedition Everest, you see marvelous examples of their genius at work.
A first for any Walt Disney World attraction, a high-speed reverse section of track.
You see a train depart headed forwards, you see it drop out of the mountain headed forwards, and you don't know that there's a section in the middle that's reversing, and it's all seamlessly blended together as part of the story. So in order to do that, we had to create these massive switches that rotate very, very quickly. We drop over an 80-foot drop, we accelerate to 50 miles an hour. Yes, it's a family ride, but it's a very, very fast family ride.
The Guardian of the Mountain is one of the most advanced audio-animatronics characters ever created.
It is enormous, and it moves enormously fast. So our technical people at Walt Disney Imagineering worked very closely between the designers and the people who had to bring it to life to use every technology trick in the book to allow us to bring this character to life in ways where it is absolutely believable.
Disney worked with world-renowned primatologists to design the Yeti, what it would look like, and how it would move.
Because they wanted you to believe that this was a real, living character, not a cartoon character, a real, living animal creature. And we went to great lengths to bring that to life.
Our Yeti figure, in order to move quickly and be lifelike, has more power, more thrust than a 747 jet engine.
And I think anyone who's been on it will tell you that is the most amazing audio-animatronic character we've ever created.
I jumped, I ducked, I screamed. When we first rode it, the first day we came to ride it, what, 6 times?
We rode it, yeah, probably 6 times.
Fast pass.
It's scared of the roller coasters.
Yeah, but I saw the Yeti at the end. Just for a brief moment, you think, my God, that thing's real. I think I maybe believe in Yeti.
Leaving the snowy Himalayas and heading for the lower, warmer climes of Asia, the surroundings change. Here, there are misty landscapes, a raging river, and a rainforest in flames. Hold on tight and prepare to get soaked, because this is Kali River Rapids. Many theme parks have raft rides, but Cali is different. It delivers a message too.
You actually go into a burning rainforest as part of the message that we're actually trying to portray. All of a sudden, what you find around you is that there's evidence of clear-cutting and burning by man of the forest.
The climax of this adventure is a breath-catching 25-foot plunge down a furious waterfall.
We originally laid this ride out with 3 small drops in it. You were supposed to feel like you were going kind of down just a small waterfall. We mocked this up, and it really didn't feel significant enough. We wanted a real thrill out of this ride. So we combined all of those drops into a single large drop of 25 feet that you just plummet down, which creates this gigantic wave at the bottom, and you are soaked.
Cali River Rapids drenches hundreds of fearless riders every hour.
Nothing beats the drop. The drop is the best. You go out, you look over, you're like, the drop is great. You just go straight down.
But Cali River Rapids is just one of the many adventures found in Asia. They're big, majestic, and rare. They're the pride of Disney's Animal Kingdom and the highlight of the Maharaja Jungle Trek. 6 magnificent tigers.
In the tiger habitat here at Disney's Animal Kingdom, we have 6 viewing areas. So if the cats are not all running around playing in the water, cats sleep 18 to 20 hours out of the day. If these guys decide to doze off for a nap, there's always a good view for our guests.
To keep these cats from getting bored and sleeping the day away, Disney uses a technique called enrichment.
Enrichment is anything novel to the animal's environment. We like to stimulate the animals. We want to enhance their lives. We want to also encourage the occurrence of natural behaviors.
Enrichment gets the tigers to run, jump, stalk, and play just like they would in their natural environment.
We have 4 different types of enrichment that we use with the tigers here at Disney's Animal Kingdom. We use novel scents, novel foods, novel toys or objects, and we also use some training that the animal keepers do with the animals.
Enrichment keeps the animals guessing.
We try to randomize the enrichment schedule as much as possible. Tigers are very intelligent creatures that catch on to routine very well. We don't want it to be predictable that, you know, they would expect it Tuesday at 5 o'clock they would receive item X. We'd like them to never know what they're going to get.
Don't be fooled by the docile appearance. These cats are wild animals.
All of our interaction with the tigers is done through a protective barrier. We do not enter the habitat with the animals at any time. This is because they are not domesticated in any way. These animals, even though they were born in captivity, have all of the wild instincts of a wild animal.
Also on the Maharaja Jungle Trek, Bat Central. No barriers, no glass, no screens. Just you and a room full of bats of the Vampira species. But don't worry, these bats only eat fruit.
Certainly there's a large phobia of bats by a lot of people, flying in your hair and so on and so forth. You know, bloodthirsty animals, and certainly we want to make that impression that they certainly aren't. These are just fruit-eating bats, and they don't bother humans in any way.
The bats here have wingspans in excess of 5 feet, and they have a unique quality. The bats in the Maharaja Jungle Trek are all trained to respond on cue. Critics said it couldn't be done. Disney proved them wrong.
You'll hear a whistle going off, a dog whistle, and that is the cue for them that the doors are opening and now you can go in, and basically the dinner bell has rung.
Many of the bats in the exhibit cannot be seen anywhere else in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, I think it's a really neat exhibit in that you can see the large Vampira fruit bat in the semi-wild where they fly freely, and which you really can't see in any other exhibit in the country.
Disney's Animal Kingdom is the largest park at the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida. The transformation of a barren cow pasture into Disney's Animal Kingdom took almost 3 years to complete and cost a reported $800 million. 2,600 construction workers trucked in 4.4 million yards of dirt and laid more than 60 miles of plumbing.
Laying out the park was a big task in that this is the largest park that Disney had ever done to that point.
Like Cinderella Castle in the Magic Kingdom theme park and Epcot's Spaceship Earth, this theme park needed a central icon.
A mountain wasn't really appropriate, and a giant statue of an animal would present you with the problem of, well, what animal? So we came to the idea of this tree.
It's the largest thing in the park. You focus on it, you know where it is, and you see a picture of that, and you know Animal Kingdom.
But the Tree of Life isn't your average oak. It's actually a colossal work of art.
The body of the tree was formed of all the rich wealth of animals across the face of the Earth and the history of the Earth. There's dinosaurs and trilobites, as well as gorillas and giraffes and herds of wildebeest on the tree.
It took 13 artists a year and a half to make this titanic tree trunk home to more than 325 carved animals.
The exterior of the tree carvings were created by 12 Imagineers who worked day and night with a support crew of plaster mixers and people who brought the plaster up to the top of the tree.
The tree is 14 stories tall and more than 50 feet wide at its base. How did they create such a huge structure with so much detail? It all started with a model. Pieces of it were scanned into a computer. The information from the computer was sent to a rebar bending machine. This powerful machine twists the metal pipes to the exact specifications of the computer. The rebar was welded together into cages that formed the massive skeleton of the tree. And finally, the pieces were actually flown into the park by helicopter. But something enormous was needed to support all the weight of the colossal branches.
The design team was challenged with trying to find a structure that would allow us to support the tree.
The solution? A massive oil rig. It supports thousands of artificial branches and hundreds of thousands of 2-foot-long leaves. It may look like a tree on the outside, but at 14 stories with a 50-foot base, this massive mountain of steel and concrete is actually a building. What's inside? One of Disney's most advanced special effects shows. They're creepy, they're crawly, and there are billions of them. It's tough to be a bug. This 3D special effects show is inspired by the Disney Pixar film A Bug's Life. Spiders, ants, ladybugs, and gentleman bugs. They're all here.
There's 10 billion trillion bugs out there, and they want us to know that unless they had these amazing survival techniques and did all these great things that bugs do, we wouldn't survive ourselves.
But these talented bugs know how to sting, swarm, and crawl through the audience. To bring these critters to life, Disney's Imagineers had to create some pretty unusual special effects.
For example, a soldier termite protects his mound by spraying acid. Well, that's a natural special effect. I'll let you in on a little secret. We really spray water at guests, but in the context of the show, when the termite-ator is spraying deadly acid at us, then we think that's what it is.
Specially designed seats, water nozzles, and air jets were installed in the theater.
There are actually fans that blow, over 40 different fans that blow in the theater that create wind effects so that when Hopper flies through the theater, you can actually feel him flying through the theater.
The show relies on all of the senses to tell the story. Sight, sound, touch, and even smell.
When Flick introduces the silent but deadly member of the insect world, guests know something's coming, and they think, oh, we're not really going to get the stink scent, are we? And then, of course, Claire turns around and she lets us have it.
The stink bug smell is a great effect. It's actually pellets in a can that we blow compressed air through.
So how did Disney come up with this stink bug stench?
One of our special effects guys came in with a sandwich bag with an actual stink bug in the bag, saying, is this what you guys want? I had to smell at least 50 different little vials to determine which scent would be used.
The bad guy at It's Tough to Be a Bug is one of the most advanced audio animatronics figures the Imagineers have ever created.
Hopper is a very complex figure. He's got over 70 functions to make him look as realistic as possible.
Because he's so complicated, technicians routinely put him through a rigorous exercise program called calisthenics. They make sure he's hopping out on cue.
Hopper needed to leap out in the show, so with special effects, we were able to hide some of his entrance and make it even more of a surprise. But the lift that has to bring Hopper up quickly so that it looks like he's leaping and not kind of floating into space was a huge engineering challenge as well.
Disney's Animal Kingdom, a place to experience African safaris, Asian river rafting, snow mountain monsters, and a unique tree full of bugs. When designing Disney's Animal Kingdom, Disney's Imagineers knew what a gamble it was. This couldn't be a typical zoo. How do you create a theme park with live animals, something they'd never done before?
The concerns were that if you did something with animals, you would be in competition with zoos, and that there are so many zoos all around the country that it would be very difficult to differentiate yourself, to get people to understand that this was something that you wanted to fly down to Florida to see.
Disney's top brass began to worry. Would live animals bring in the crowds? Were they interesting enough?
We were going to do our big presentation on these safari experiences where you're going to be out there with these live animals, and it's all words. There's no action. How are we going to make this point?
The Imagineers devised a plan to convince them.
We decided to bring a live tiger into the room. We decided this all by ourselves.
How did the executives react?
Everybody did what you imagine they would do. Their faces kind of opened up. They kind of scooted a little bit back in their rolling chairs. And that was the end of any debate about the thrill of the presence of live animals.
All kinds of animals have a home here, from the rare and exotic to the extinct. They can all be found at Dinoland USA.
The look and the feel of Dinorama is based on childhood memories of what it was like to go to these roadside places. Everything is bright and colorful, and there's this toy-like quality to everything you see. Within all of Dinoland and the adjacent Dinorama, there's this very broad sweep of what these animals mean to us. But in all cases, they are, in a way, creations of our own imagination.
Creations like Primeval Whirl, a coaster that moves like no other.
Every time you come to an edge, you whip around these corners and you head to another corner and you whip around that corner. So the vehicle does that, but then it also spins like a teacup. Primeval Whirl combines a kind of a wild mouse, which is a type of a small coaster, the premise of which is you always feel like you're going to fall off these cliffs. It's a parody of the serious story of the comet and the end of the dinosaur era, only in this version, it's all expressed in kind of comic book terms. Everything is moving kind of like a pinball machine as you rattle through all of these hoops and loops, and all this stuff is moving around you. It's very funny and a very exhilarating ride.
Primeval Whirl is a quirky kind of thrill, but if visitors are looking for something a little meatier, they'll want to check out Dinosaur.
We wanted to put the guests
back in the time of the dinosaurs and actually experience what it's like to be careening through the forest at night with dinosaurs chasing you.
Primeval forests, a race through time, a giant man-eating Carnotaurus. Welcome to the Dino Institute, where scientists have uncovered the mystery of time travel. They're going back 65 million years and straight into the jaws of a hungry Carnotaurus.
The idea was to put you in a place which was totally alien, surround you with sights and sounds and smells in a way that's very disorienting.
Dinosaur's Time Rover. It's not your average ride. Our cameras were granted special access to the maintenance bay at Dinosaur to get a close-up look at these technological marvels.
The Time Rover is probably one of the most complicated vehicles in the industry, if not the most complicated.
Disney wants passengers to feel like they are running over rocks, trees, and stumps, but they're not. It's all simulated through the movement of the vehicle. The motion is programmed by an Imagineer and can be changed at any time.
We have a show programmer who sits in this vehicle with a console, and he's able to control the motions of the vehicle, the speed of the vehicle, the steering of the vehicle.
But the Time Rover is just part of the adventure. The robotic dinos are some of the biggest audio animatronics figures at Disney.
To bring these dinosaurs to life, we wanted to push the edge of animation technology.
The dinosaurs, they don't just stand there, but they just jump at you, and it just made us all jump back.
I don't think there's anything out there today that moves as much and as fast as the dinosaurs we have in that ride.
The dinosaurs run on hydraulic fluid, and it takes a lot of it to put these monsters into motion. These large creatures require 3,000 psi of pressure to move them. Compare that to 50 psi to move a Small World doll.
There's times when I wish we could just peel the skin off and show you what's going on under the skin of these amazing machines. But that would ruin the fun.
Dinosaur. It's time travel. It's meat-eating monsters. And it's feeding on guests at Disney's Animal Kingdom. When Disney's Animal Kingdom opened back in 1998, it took the Walt Disney Company into uncharted territory. Thrill rides and attractions, no problem. But animals? How would they set themselves apart from other animal theme parks? One way was to become one of the first animal parks to let visitors actually witness their veterinary care.
One of the things that we really enjoy and find to be very unique here at Disney's Animal Kingdom is the fact that we can do these procedures in front of our guests. The great thing about this state-of-the-art facility is that it has all of the things that both the human and veterinary hospital would include.
The veterinary hospital is only one small part of the backstage world of Disney's Animal Kingdom. There's also the Wildlife Tracking Center.
One of the exciting things about the Wildlife Tracking Center is when guests come to visit, they have the opportunity to see science being conducted firsthand.
Why is this turtle wearing an antenna? It's not his cell phone. It's a satellite transmitter and part of Disney's research efforts.
And the satellite can send us a location data of where the turtle actually is. And we can take that data and then put it on a map and plot where the turtle's spending its time.
Eventually, the transmitters fall off, but the hope is to help this endangered species survive. So what's next for Disney's Animal Kingdom?
When Disney's Animal Kingdom first opened, much of the attraction was its gorgeous landscape and its animals and the safari. Over the years, it has grown tremendously to include many wonderful attractions and other experiences for guests.
The vision for Disney's Animal Kingdom is so large that it should be able to encompass anything.
We have tremendous opportunities at Animal Kingdom for expansion. The park is huge, and just within the park are something between 50 and 70 acres of open land.
And it really is alive, and there's plenty of land there and plenty of opportunities for us to grow. I think the possibilities are endless.
There's a lot more to come with Animal Kingdom as well. There's always attractions that we're thinking about putting in. There'll be more fantasy, there'll be more thrill, There'll be more live animal exhibits. It's a never-ending story there at Animal Kingdom.
I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse.
To get started planning your Disney Parks vacation, just click on disneyparks.com/fun.